Hello, so back into the lovely Lincoln. We've got the other bits for it now. If you remember, we had issues with the ball joints being the wrong ones, but we've got the right ones now. As you can see, these ones were riveted in, and these ones to replace it, they just come with the 2-bolt flange in them, and you grind those rivets out and chuck the new one in with these nuts and bolts. Just giving the arm a quick bit of a clean up, and also got that the bush to go on this side as well. So I'll just go ahead and get the rivets ground out of this ball joint. I think looking at it, it'll be easy to grind it from this way. So I'll just grind the top of the rivet off in there, pop the boot off, and then hit the ball joint out with a hammer, and then just bolt the new one in. This bush here should hopefully come out like the ones did in the top arm. Hopefully just with a bit of a tap. If not, then we'll burn the rubber out and put a slice down it with a hacksaw. Tap it out that way. So you'll start with the ball joint and get it all stripped out, give the arm a clean up, and then get it all back together with the new bits. Right, so that went about as good as I thought it would. Ground the rivets out, and the ball joint just tapped out of there with a hammer. You see we're just there, left there with the 2 bolt holes for this to slide in from the bottom and bolt up to. So that was fairly straightforward, but the bush was a bit of a mongrel. See, it's all black on the end there. I had to burn the rubber out of it to get that crust tube out and the rubber out of the way. Then I just ran the hacksaw through it just to put a slice up the shell, because obviously it's a press fit in there, so it's quite tight. Putting the cut in there just sort of gives a little bit of a gap to close up, and then a couple of hits and it pops straight out. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the arm a bit of a clean up again. I've scraped all this old grease off it and everything, get it looking a lot nice and tidier, and get these new bits fitted up to it. And that is one rebuilt Lincoln Continental suspension arm, I guess you could say. Believe it or not, the worst part about it was getting that bloody grease nipple into the new ball joint there. Bit of a nightmare. The thread was a bit of a mess. That all was fairly straightforward. That was bolted up. It was nice and simple, as you'd expect. This bush, I ended up having to use the press to get it in there. It's quite a tight fit. It was pretty simple to set up on the press. We just put this socket so it sat on that shoulder there. Had the biggest socket underneath, so it sat around that bush like that. And then one thing you got to be careful with when pressing them in is that you don't close up that space there, because obviously that's all open there. That's the new bush there, so that's all open. As you press it in, because it's quite tight in here, it can actually start squashing that down. So to stop that, I just chuck another socket in there. Just put a socket in there, and that stops it closing up. So I'll get both of these arms fitted up into the car now. That's both the passenger side ones. We'll get them fitted up and get the spring on there and the shock, and I'll try to show how we get all that back in there. Right, so you see here I've got both the arms just bolted on their pivot points there. I've left the bolts loose just so the arm can pivot around so we can get the spring in there. I've also left the nuts loose on the end of these here, just to give us the movement in it to be able to get the hub in later on. But we also don't tighten those up until everything's all together and the car's on the ground, just so everything's at its normal ride position. Because if we tighten that bush up there, if we tighten that bolt up there, obviously once it comes back down, that bush is going to be under a lot of stress and it'll eventually tear. It'll be back to square one. So to get the spring in, all we have to do is sort of poke the spring up in to where it sits in there. We lift the arm up so it seats on the bottom of the arm. Then we get the axle stand underneath the arm to hold it all in position. Then we lower the hoist down so it compresses the spring, and then we can get the shock back up in there. So we'll move on to doing that, and just hoping there's enough weight in there to compress it all, because the car's got no engine in it. It's quite a lot lighter than what it would normally be, so only way to find out is to do it, so we'll see what it is. Right, so you see we got the arm pushed all the way up with the weight of the car on the axle stand there compressing the spring up. So now we'll just see if we can get the shock in. I'm sure it's gone down enough, but we've started getting the weight off the hoist now, so it is about as far as it'll go. You probably tell, I don't know if you can tell, that that arm's sitting a bit cockeyed. That'll do that until we get everything bolted up to where it should be and those caster arms in there. So go ahead and get the shock in there and make sure it's all going to sit right. Right, so that's all in there with our new shock and everything. It did compress down well and truly enough. I had to actually go up on the hoist a little bit, so I wasn't fighting having to compress the shock to get the bottom nuts in. But yeah, so you can see all our new bushes in there, new ball joints, new shock. It's starting to look good. Now we do have wheel bearings and brakes and brake shim kit and everything to go on it, but we'll probably do all that on the car just so it can all be held nice and sturdy. I'm doing everything, getting everything fitted up on there. That since taking the weight off that axle stand as well, it's straightened that arm up back to where it should be sitting. That's good, make it easier to put everything else back together. So I might get the hub bolted on, and once that's on we will probably pull apart the other side and do all this again, all the same stuff. Right, I'll go ahead and get that done and we'll pick back up later. So I got the other arms off the other side here. These top bushes don't look too bad other than they're just starting to perish in there, starting to get a bit of crack in there. I guess that's original ball joint, still riveted in. That bottom arm bush is clearly no good. But it looks like it's had this bottom ball joint done because it's bolted rather than riveted. Nothing bolted in there, but it's also got this weird badge on it, which I don't know what the go is there. But it looks like it says, if it'll focus on there, vertical CLR 0.062 max. I'm not sure what that is, so if anyone knows what that's about, interested to know. It's obviously put on there once that new ball joint was put on. Never seen it before. Right, so I'll crack on and get all these bushes and ball joints done. Oh, you can see the shock bushes on this side are buggered as well. See how that one's sitting a bit offset there, she's a bit no good. And the top bush is looking fairly nasty too, so good idea to do all of that. So yeah, I'll crack on and get these bushes and ball joints done and get this side back together too. Righto, both sides are all in and back together, all looking pretty and new and looking like they don't want to be touched for another few years. Now, like I said, we leave all the pivot bolts loose, top and bottom arms. When it's back on the ground, we'll tighten those up. Once all the bushes are in their actual position they'll be sitting in. Left all the tie rods off and everything because they're going to be getting changed next. That's all to come. To finish off what we're doing here with the suspension side of it, we'd chuck the sway bar back in and the caster arms. Now we got some new bushes for the sway bar, but they were the wrong ones. These ones are reasonably new and they'll easily do another turn, so just clean them up and chuck some new rubber grease in them. We got new sway bar link kits, bushes, bolts, washers and everything, and then quite a good kit for the caster bushes too. Come with bushes, washers and new nuts and everything. So we'll go ahead and get all that put together and that'll be the front suspension finished off. And that's that part of the job done. The sway bars all fitted up with the new link ends, and just reused the old bushes, but they're still good, those ones. The new caster rod bush kit's in there. I like that these kits just come with everything. Like the links that come with the crush tube, washers, the whole lot. It's good. Everything's just new. So next up we've got obviously the steering joints. We've got inner and outer tie rod ends. We've got a new idler arm for it and also a new drop arm. And at the same time we'll do wheel bearings and the front brakes on it. We've also got a full set of cut studs for it because obviously got a broken one there, but for some reason it's got these freakishly long studs on it that don't need to be on there. Yeah, so that'll be it for this one. Quite good to give this old girl a new lease of life. That was all fairly straightforward too. Obviously a lot easier with a hoist, but it wouldn't be too bad to do it on the ground too if you got the right gear. So that'll do for this video. See you in the next one when we attack those other little jobs.